Mr. B, XRP here, and welcome back. Happy Saturday to all. Got a bunch of things I want to go over today. One of the things I want to talk about is we're going to do XRP ETF updates. The CME went down for like 10 or 11 hours, and I want to talk about how blockchain might be able to fix that. Also, Bitcoin's in the news. Got some interesting Bitcoin information to share with you. BlackRock also, want to share some things about BlackRock. And then I want to talk about the difference between Bitcoin and XRP, which I know is obvious for a lot of the people in the XRP community, but for the newer people, I had a lot of questions on Thanksgiving, why would I invest in XRP when I can buy Bitcoin? People don't understand the difference. So I'm going to share some of the differences and talk about that. Let's start with the prices though. Okay, right now we are, and I'm going to refresh here. Right now we are at 28 fear. So we're out of extreme fear, finally. Thank goodness, right? We were extreme fear yesterday, 25. Last week we were at 11 extreme fear. Now we're at 28, which is much better. So we're moving in the right direction. That's fantastic. The prices are $90,872 for Bitcoin, $3,003 for Ethereum. Tether is holding comfortably at $1, and XRP is at $2.20. On the 7-day, Bitcoin's up 7.5%, Ethereum's up 9.4%, and XRP is up almost 14.5%. So that's where we are on the 7-day, moving in the right direction. So looking at the XRP ETF tracker, we just hit $811 million in XRP spot ETFs. So we are looking to break that $1 billion mark, and I'm sure we're going to do it next week. So by the end of next week, we're certainly going to have over $1 billion taken out of the XRP circulating supply, which I know is important to everyone, and I'm certainly looking forward to that. Okay, so this was all over the news. The CME group went down for 10 or 11 hours the other day. And, it was a cooling problem, they said, at one of their data centers. The point is, the old system, you can have 1 point of failure. And they had 1 point of failure, which took down the whole system. If they were on blockchain, I don't think it would be possible. I mean, unless they were on the wrong blockchain and it froze up. If they're on the right blockchain, a blockchain that's never frozen up or never had a problem, there's no reason why the CME would have went down the other day. So, when we talk about tokenization, we talk about the future of finance, we talk about, blockchains being the protocols of the future of finance. This is a perfect example of something that probably would have never happened. So think about that and share that with your family and friends who want to learn about blockchain and digital assets. This was from Cointelegraph, and they said CoinShares has formally withdrawn its registration for the Solana staking ETF. They also withdrew registration for their XRP ETF and some others. And the theory behind it is they're getting ready to go public. So they pulled all of their registrations on their ETFs because they're probably going in what's called a quiet period. And in a quiet period, you got to really be quiet and do nothing. So they're probably going to go into that period right now, and that's probably why they did that. So don't read too far into that, and we'll see as time goes on. We'll get more information, but I think that's all it is. All right, so this was from Bitcoin Archive, and this is really great. This is Tom Lee from 2019, and listen to the response he gets when he gives this advice to the moderator on CNBC.
Now, if you actually think it's undervalued by that extent?
Well, we think the best approach for most people is just to put 1% or 2%.
Are you saying that? I get that if you're somebody who's got a lot of assets, I still think it's crazy. But for a retail investor, somebody who's saving for retirement and putting that aside, that seems crazy to me.
Well, it's basically the idea that you can afford to lose 1% if that's 1% of your portfolio.
That's crazy. You might as well throw it away on high fees to an investor, to an average like this. You're taking a flyer on that. You don't know where it's going to go or what's going to happen.
Well, in a way, that's right, Becky. That for the majority of people, it's 1% is like a small risk bet. But Bitcoin makes all of its gains in 10 days in a year. I think this is an example that if you exclude the 10 best days, Bitcoin loses 25% a year. So you gotta essentially hold it or hodl it, as they say, to really capture the gains.
She's just another example of someone that was absolutely dead wrong. And that was 2019. That wasn't even the early years. Like by then, she should have realized that that wasn't that high of a percentage, but how wrong was she? This was posted by the Digital Asset Investor, and he says tokenization of assets is going to change everything. Someone had posted this: why does Warren Buffett avoid real estate even when it's cheap? And they go into this long thing. Buffett doesn't invest in real estate, he says, because he can't get out of it as quickly as he can in stocks. It doesn't have the speed, scale, and finality. With real estate, there's delays, complexity, endless humans, and paperwork. So once real estate gets tokenized, other investors, investors might think differently about investing in real estate, because real estate will be more liquid, as will everything else. So it'll be interesting how it has an effect on the real estate market. And I thought that was an interesting point, something I hadn't considered, that it would drive new investors into the real estate business, until I saw that post and saw that explanation. So I think that's a good one. And speaking of tokenization, look, this was from Ripple, and the story was everywhere, right? And it says Guggenheim Treasury Services taps Economy platform to issue digital commercial paper on the XRP ledger, right? So the XRP ledger is being used for the tokenization of real world assets, right? Which brings me to one of the things I wanted to talk about today, which is, look, the simple differences between Bitcoin and XRP, right? One of the challenges is that people don't understand. They think XRP is in competition with Bitcoin, or Bitcoin's in competition with XRP. We're only competitive in the digital asset space because we want our digital asset to be number one. But the truth of it is, they're not solving the same problem. I mean, Bitcoin can't do what XRP can do. And one of the things that Bitcoin does that XRP can't do is it can't have first mover advantage, right? So which leads me into Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is the first digital asset with first mover advantage. It's become a store of value, which it wasn't its original purpose. It was supposed to be a peer-to-peer payment system that didn't need an intermediary. We know Bitcoin's slow and expensive. Everybody knows that, and it's not scalable. It's not built to be programmable, so other applications aren't built on top of it, right? So you can't build on Bitcoin, and you can't tokenize on Bitcoin. So it's really become this store of value. Some people refer to it as digital gold. Call it what you want. It's got a first mover advantage. XRP will never have that first mover advantage. And when people think about covering up a cut, they think of a Band-Aid. A Band-Aid is not a product name. It is a specific company name. And a Q-tip. A Q-tip is a company name. It's not a product name. And a Xerox copy is a company name. It's not an actual product, name. So my point being is, when people think of crypto, the first thing they think of is Bitcoin, and you'll never take that away from Bitcoin. So don't even worry about it. It is what it is. But what XRP can do that Bitcoin can't do, it's extremely fast, it's inexpensive, it's scalable. It's the ideal bridge asset for FX and global payments. The XRPL, the XRP ledger, supports tokenization. It has smart contract solutions now, right? So it uses hooks to use smart contracts, which is great. So it can compete with Ethereum in that way. And if we sum it up, if we're going to look at the two of them, we would say, look, Bitcoin is a store of value with limited utility, while XRP is a workhorse built to solve real-world financial needs. I mean, that would be the greatest way to summarize the difference between the two. So if you're talking to anybody, just explain there's a difference. They're not in competition with each other than for market cap. That's all it really is. All right, so jumping into some additional stuff. Trump said this, and this was really, really big. Trump says income tax could be cut to zero, right? Let's hear what he says.
For the next couple of years, I think we'll substantially be cutting, and maybe cutting out completely, but we'll be cutting income tax. Could be almost completely cutting it, because the money we're taking in is going to be so large. And yet, other countries who have been ripping us off for many, many years, and many years they've just been ripping us to shreds for the next couple of years.
So that, look, we'll see. I mean, right now we're talking about $2,000 checks to people for tariff monies that have been taken in, but it's only for the people that, and I'm using air quotes right now, people that need the money, right? Which I don't really like to hear that. I don't care how much money someone has. Everybody needs to be treated equally in the country. If somebody is a millionaire, somebody's a billionaire, they should get the $2,000. I don't care. They paid in. They're an American citizen. Everyone should get the same. Everybody should be treated fairly. Just because somebody's more successful or somebody happened to, inherit a bunch of money, it's not their fault. Everybody should be treated equally. And but anyway, that's just my personal opinion. Okay, so this was from BlackRock, and BlackRock. This is interesting. Larry Fink from BlackRock. He says this.
And we used to bring in all these different people who were big believers in it, like Michael Saylor from MicroStrategies. I mean, Michael came to our office when the stock was in the teens, but he was a huge believer in it, transformed his company. I mean, I could just say all these different people came in and talked. And then we became, we became a leader in working with the SEC and trying to move forward in this. And fast forward now, a little more than 18 months when we first started creating a Bitcoin ETF. Today, IBIT is $86 billion.
So it's interesting. So BlackRock, brought in Michael Saylor to help learn about Bitcoin, and it's interesting to just see how these companies go through their process, and then finally, they come into it, right? At first, they say it's a scam, and then they say, it's going to go to zero, and then they in the back rooms they figure out how it works and how they're going to make money on it, but they don't tip their hand so quick. They start investing in it, and then later on, when they figure out how they're going to make money offering it to their customers, they go ahead and launch it. And that's why the adage is, don't believe what they say, believe what they do, right? Don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. And it's a perfect example of it. So this is another Tom Lee video. And this is really a great point, right? So when people say, oh, Bitcoin's going to go to zero, Bitcoin's going to fail, and Bitcoin's been going to zero since 2008, 2009. It hasn't happened yet. But this Tom Lee makes a great point in this video. Let's listen to it.
I think that it's probably better to just observe a few things. One is Bitcoin has now been around for 15 years, and there has not been a Bitcoin 2.0. So there's no crypto 2.0. This is Bitcoin is the surviving chain, and Bitcoin has become a $2 trillion asset, which never in financial history, has anything reached $2 trillion and then disappeared. So we're not. It's a different argument if it was $100 billion.
Okay.
Third is the U.S. government is reiterated its commitment to make Bitcoin a strategic reserve asset. That's not bad for the price of Bitcoin. So if someone is watching this and said, well, they don't understand Bitcoin, so they decide not to own it, it's a catastrophic way to look at market.
Yeah, I agree with him 100%. I mean, $2 trillion, that is just, it's unbelievable. And having the government get into it, look, unless quantum computing does something horrible to dismantle Bitcoin, I don't see it going anywhere. And I think Tom Lee makes a good point there. All right, so this was from Cointelegraph. It says bullish XRP is flashing multiple bullish signals as charts, on-chain data and ETF flows point to a potential rally toward $2.80. So we're not there yet. We're at $2.20 as I'm making this video, but let's go ahead. We're looking to run a 280. We'd like to see that again. So look, one of the things, if you've been listening to my channel, you probably know I built a digital asset training program called Blockchain Bootcamp. So if you know anybody that needs to learn about digital assets, or if you want to, if you're newer to digital assets and you want to brush up your knowledge on digital assets, understanding the difference between Bitcoin and XRP and Ethereum, and understanding how tokenization is going to work. And, I go all the way back from the history of Bitcoin. I go all the way forward to the future of what blockchain is going to do. You can go to cryptocoachnick.com, and you can even give it to a gift if you want to give it to a gift to somebody. Be sure to use the discount code XRP589 for 25% discount if you'd like to do that. And that's it for this one, guys. So I'm not a financial advisor. This video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. If you haven't subscribed to my channel and you're still here, you're one of my people. So go ahead and subscribe. I'd love to see you be here every day. And remember, always do your own research. See you next time. Bye-bye.